Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Yaz and I will be your cross stitch 101 instructor. This is a guide for a quick start. I will not go into too much detail as this is for people who just want to get started. So to start your cross stitch project, you will need pattern, fabric, needle, some thread, and scissors. Today I'm using the Ready Set Stitch. It's a counted cross stitch kit by Jenlin, and I do have a few of these available in my eBay shop. I will post the links in the description. So let's get started. The first step is to get your needle threaded. This is an 18 count fabric, so I will be using 2 strands. You want to separate your floss into strands. This is a 6 ply, which means there are 6 strands. We need to separate one for this project. And this is the easy way I found to do it. I prefer to use the loop start, so I will show you how to do it. We are going to use 1 strand and then we will fold it in half. And I guess I should have taken my needle out first. Once it's folded in half, you want to take the middle of the loop and thread it through your needle. All right. The second step is to find the center of your fabric. The easy way to do that is to fold the fabric in half and then fold it in half again. And I am going to take my needle and just kind of put it through the hole in the center. Not the easiest, but approximate center will do. And now we know where the center of the fabric is. The next step is to find the corresponding center of the pattern. If you look at a pattern, you see arrows, and where they meet, this will be our center. So right here, and this is where we're going to start with this stitch right here. And we're going to go across the row. So to do a loop start, we're going to put the needle through from the front of the fabric. Pull out almost all the way through till you only have a loop left. You're going to come back in the upper right corner of that stitch. Put your needle through the loop. Tighten it up. And then go through the fabric at the same place where you just came up. And that is how we have completed our first part of the cross stitch, as well as started our thread with a loop. For cross stitch, there are 2 parts. It resembles a letter X or a cross, and now that we have created the first leg of the cross, we will go down into the lower right corner, pull the needle through, then go back through the upper left corner. And that is your first cross stitch. The next stitch we are going to do is we'll kind of come up through the same hole at the lower right corner of the previous stitch, because they need to hold hands. In other words, our next stitch is always going to be sharing that hole with the previous stitch. Pull the needle through, and we're going to go up in the right upper corner, come back in the lower right corner, and then go back in on the upper left. Now we have completed 2 cross stitches. If you look at a pattern, We have started right here in the middle. So to complete this row, we will need 16 more stitches. So again, we're going to go up through the lower left, go back in the upper right, come back at the lower right, and go back in the upper left. And this is another stitch completed. We have now completed first 4 stitches, and this is how it looks in the back. I have completed 16 stitches in the first row. So now that we're all the way at the end, we are going to turn around and go back the other way. This next row, we're going to go all the way across for a total of 36 stitches. We will continue to create the cross stitches as we did before, following the pattern across this row. When you get to the point where your thread has become too short to continue working, it is time to end the thread and start a new one. Once you've completed the last stitch you are going to do, you want to flip your fabric over, and then you will thread your needle underneath the stitches in the previous row. You don't have to do very many, about 3 or 4 will do. Now we are going to pull our needle through and pull out the thread. Your end is now anchored under the stitches, and we can trim off the excess. You're going to grab another strand of the floss, and same as before. For the loop start, you want to fold your thread in half, thread the loop through the needle, you're gonna go to the fabric from the front, come back from behind at the opposite corner, pull your needle through the loop, tighten it up, and then go back in the same stitch you came, same place that you came up from. So now we have started a new thread, and we are going to work across this row following a pattern for a total of 36 stitches. We are now on this row right here. The entire row is now completed, total of 36 stitches. And I want to mention this, I should have before. Please mark your stitches as you are going along. Mark what you have completed, otherwise it might end up getting very confusing later. So now we have completed this row, so I'm going to cross it off. I have also numbered the rows on the side for easier reference. So we have completed half of row 8 and completed entire row 9. Our next row is row 10. Row 10 is exactly the same as row we just completed, so we will go ahead and complete another 36 stitches. Row 10 is complete, so now we will work on row 11. If you look closely at the pattern, row 11 has one stitch less than row 10, so we will have to shift our starting point one stitch to the left. So we're going to start right here. So our next row is going to have 16 stitches, and pay attention to the middle because there is a break, and we will complete the 16 and then we will be back. Row 11, our first stitch is shifted one stitch to the right, and you can see now that we have completed our first stitch, we have one empty space that's matching our pattern. Okay, we have now completed 16 stitches on the row 11, and we are now at the point where there is a break. So before we continue with the other side of row 11, I want to talk about carrying the thread. Carrying the thread is when your next stitch is not right next to the stitch you just completed. How many stitches you want to carry the thread across depends on your pattern, depends on your preference, and it also depends on the color of thread and the fabric that you are working with. You do not want to carry, if you're working with a black thread, you do not want to carry it across, because if you can look, you can see the shadow of the thread underneath the fabric, and we want to avoid that. We also do not want to carry it over too many stitches, because there is a possibility that your thread will break and your pattern will unravel. So to carry the thread, we will need to anchor our thread in the rows above. So you want to flip over your fabric, go up to the row above, thread your needle underneath the stitches, similar to what we did with ending a thread. And now we can go right back to stitching. Make sure you skip 2 stitches, as we do have a break in the pattern right there. So 2 stitches, and then we continue with the left side of the mustache on row 11 for a total of 16 stitches. We have now completed row 11, the 16 stitches. So we are going to turn around and work on the last row, row 12. If you notice, there are two empty spaces, so our next row is shifting by 2 stitches to the right. So we are going to do the same thing as we did earlier. We will anchor our thread by going back under the stitch in the row we completed. It's enough to just do one, and then we will start our next row. Two stitches to the right. So this is our first stitch of the 12 in the row 12. The first 12 stitches in a row 12 are now complete. So our next second part of the row 12, if you notice there is this empty space, there are 6 stitches that we need to skip. They will not be worked. So in this case, I will end the thread and then start a new fret on the other side to complete the second part of row 12. Remember, count 6 spaces and start in the 7th space. We will see you after we complete these 12 stitches in a row 12. All right, now that the row 12 is fully complete, if you remember, we started in the middle of row 8. So we will start our new thread and complete the row 8. With row 8 now completed, I am going to mark it off. And we are going to start now on the twirl of the mustache. This is a very small area, so you want to count your stitches carefully, as any mistakes will be very noticeable. Our next row starts in the alignment with the row before, and it only has 3 stitches. Let's complete the 3 stitches. Our next row has only 2 stitches and it starts 1 stitch to the left of the row we just completed. Okay, now we have completed. I'm going to cross off 3 and I'm going to cross off the 2 we just did. So our next row has 3 stitches again, and it starts in the alignment with the previous row. So we're just going to go up and complete the next 3 stitches. Our next row has 4 stitches, and the start shifts 2 row to the right. So we are going to start our next row 2 stitches to the right. And that completes the left side of our mustache. So right now I'm going to end my thread, and I am going to start a new thread back down to row 7. I'm going to count 3 open spaces. So we're going to skip 3 stitches, and then we're going to start the middle part of row 7. With the middle part of row 7 complete, I'm going to mark it off, and then we are going to work on row 6. Row 6 starts 1 stitch to the left, so it shifts, and then I'm going to go through and complete the rest of the middle part of the mustache. Please pay attention to the top row. There is a break in between the stitches, so you can do the same thing. You can anchor it at the row below, and then we will go back and work on the second part of the mustache twirl. Now that we have completed the top of the middle part of the mustache, we are going to do the right side or the right twirl the same we did on the left side. So we will count 3 stitches on row 7 and then start there to complete 3 stitches of row 7, and then we will follow the pattern to the top. The mustache cross stitch is now completed. However, this pattern also includes the back stitch. Back stitch is a straight stitch that we use to outline specific areas, or in this case we are outlining the entire design. The back stitch uses 1 ply or 1 strand, which means that we cannot use the loop start since we do not have the even number of strands. It does not matter where you start, so we are going to start at the top. What we're going to do is we are going to anchor this thread at the same way we did when we are ending a thread. We're going to go under a couple of stitches, and I'm going to hold the thread in place just until we complete the first stitch. So we're going to go from the back of the fabric to the front. We're going to follow the outline as it is at the pattern. We're starting right here at the top corner, and we are going to go 2 stitches across and then 1 row down. Because this is across a back stitch, we need to make sure it stays in a continuous line. So our next stitch is also 2 stitches long and 1 row down. So we are going diagonally, and we are going to come up at our next space and then go back into the end of the first stitches we completed. And that creates a continuous line that is outlining our pattern. Our next stitch is going diagonally, 1 stitch down, And so is the one after that and the one after that. Continuing to follow the pattern, we will work along the edge of the mustache. We have now completed the left side of the mustache. So you can see the backstitch on the left side, and there is no backstitch on the right side. So you can compare. Some patterns benefit greatly from from having the backstitch, and for some patterns it's not really all that noticeable. Our pattern is now fully complete. This is how it looks from the front, and this is how it looks from the back. I want to thank you all for joining me today on this quick guide to a cross stitch project. Please subscribe so you get notifications when my new videos come out, and let me know in the comments if there is anything you would like me to cover in my future videos. Or if you have any questions, I am happy to help. Thank you all for watching, and join me next time on Master the Hoop.